Going. Hope everybody's doing good. Today's lesson is on the rest of the endocrine system. There's a ton of hormones I'm going to go through with you guys today. The first one is going to be HGH. It is released by the posterior pituitary. In my last lesson, I talked about the difference between the anterior and the posterior pituitary. That the anterior pituitary has the endocrine cells and neurons that extend into the anterior pituitary, and then I have the posterior pituitary, which contains this. Right, so if you take a look here, there's like this dividing line here, where this part is the hypothalamus, which contains all the nerves. So you can see there's nerves here, and this part here is the pituitary. And you can see that this anterior pituitary contains these endocrine cells, and the posterior pituitary contains the axons and this axon terminal of these neurons. Okay, so the posterior pituitary contains the cell bodies of the neuron, and then the axon, and the synaptic knob is part of the posterior pituitary. Anyways, all you need to know, though, is where the hormones are released. So we're going to talk about HGH first. HGH you learned in Bio 20. It increases water reabsorption. Okay, so like basically I'm going to very briefly and make this as simple as I can. Let's say you like exercise. When you exercise, of course you lose water, right? So you get this like decrease in H2O. You're gonna get like these receptors called osmoreceptors that activate like the hypothalamus, right? And it's basically saying that, hey, I'm thirsty, and then your brain will tell the posterior pituitary to release the HGH, okay, the hormone. Now, a hormone is a chemical messenger, right? It travels through the blood. So basically, like if you guys could visualize this, right? Here's the hypothalamus. Here's HGH, right? HGH is released into the blood. So here's the HGH being released into the blood. And what it's doing is targeting your kidney. Okay, so that's the target. It's released by your brain. It travels to where your lower back is. It's traveling through the blood. It's reaching the kidney. And what it does at the kidney level, so if this is their kidney, okay, so imagine this is your kidney. In Bio 20, you learned about a structure called the nephron, right? This structure over here is called a nephron, right? And actually, I should have probably drawn this. So this is like blood. And you can see this blood sort of surrounds this nephron. And what ends up happening is like, you end up like, this ends up going to your bladder. And then you end up with urine in your urethra. So, and then you pee it out. So basically, like if this is your nephron, right? What do you want to get into your bladder? Like, what do you want to pee out? Well, you want to pee out, like if you drink alcohol, you want to pee that out. If there's urea, you want to pee that out. If you do drugs, you want to pee that out. Like none of that stuff you want to actually keep in your body. So all of that stuff is going to be filtered out. Water, of course, is in your pee, right? Like, and you can tell when you're like dehydrated, your pee looks like more yellow, because what that means is that you're not getting enough water. You want your pee to be like a light yellow color. And so like you guys can imagine this HGH, okay? So here's this HGH, and it's going to this nephron. And what this HGH is telling the nephron in the kidney to do is it's telling it to reabsorb water. So what does that mean? It's telling it to keep water in the blood. So that means all this water, right? So let's say this water, you're supposed to pee this water out, you're supposed to pee it out. Well, when ADH comes in, it's telling you to keep the water in the blood. So now water stays in the blood. So it stays in the blood. So that means because it's staying in the blood, are you going to pee more or pee less? ADH, right? ADH increases H2O reabsorption. So guess what? You pee less, right? Because you're keeping water in the blood. That's what ADH does. Okay? All right. Sorry, I'm good at sneeze. Sorry about that. All right. That's all you need to know about ADH. Sometimes people are born with this disorder called diabetes insipidus, which means you have no ADH. You have no mechanism. If you have no ADH, that means you have no ability to reabsorb water or keep it in your blood. And so you're going to pee a lot. Okay? And that makes you really dehydrated, and you could actually die if you don't have enough water in your body because you are 70% water. And that's ADH. Okay? So ADH, posterior pituitary. The next hormone is the growth hormone I'm going to go through. So now growth hormone is released by the anterior pituitary. Okay, so we're going to just diagram it. So here is HGH, RH. So you need a releasing hormone. That releasing hormone releases the actual growth hormone from the endocrine cell. So imagine this is the hypothalamus. Imagine you're like, I don't know, 10 years old, you need to grow. So your brain will say, hey, release this HGH, RH. And that'll travel through the blood. Okay, so that'll travel through the blood like that. And it will actually signal the release of the actual growth hormone, right? So the pathway looks like this, HGH, RH. Signals the release of HGH. This goes to your bones. So here's the HGH. It's also going to travel through the blood. So here's the HGH traveling through the blood. And what it's doing is it's targeting your bones. And it's targeting like the ends of your bones. They have what's called a growth plate. And it's these ends of your bones that have the most growth. And so this HGH is targeting the long bones, and it's making you grow. So you increase growth. HGH also increases cell division, so your cells divide more, so you grow more, and that's all you need to know for HGH, okay? So remember, this RH is released by the hypothalamus. This HGH is released by the anterior pituitary. It goes to your bones, it makes you grow, and it also increases cell division. And that's all you need to know for HGH, RH. Okay, so that's the next hormone. Now, another hormone that you guys got to know is TSH. So this again is an anterior pituitary hormone. Okay, so when you look at it, you gotta first have the neuron. So, sorry, let's just do this. So here is the TSH, RH. So that neuron is located in the hypothalamus. Okay, and so your brain will tell you to release this TSH, RH. Okay, and then that will travel through the blood. Here it is. And that will actually cause the release of the actual TSH from the endocrine cell in the anterior pituitary. Okay, so here we go. TSH, RH travels through the blood, goes to this endocrine cell, tells it to release the actual TSH. Now here's TSH right here, and it's targeting your thyroid gland. So your thyroid gland is located in your, if you can imagine, this is your neck, and here is your thyroid gland in your neck. It's this gland right here. And so this TSH is traveling. And in this thyroid gland, so imagine this is your thyroid gland, you have, this is an endocrine cell in your thyroid gland, and in it is the hormone thyroxine. So TSH is actually causing, okay, so here we go. It's causing, TSH causes the release of thyroxine. Okay, so here's the thyroxine. It's being released, okay, by that TSH. And thyroxine actually targets your cells, and thyroxine increases cell metabolism. And that just means you start to break down. That just means you start to break down sugar faster. And so if you have lots of, so it's going to look like this. It's going to look like this. It's going to have TSH, RH, signals the release of TSH, which signals the release of thyroxine, which increases cell metabolism. And when you have an increase in cell metabolism, right, that just means you're using up glucose more. And so you're breaking down sugar more and you're producing more energy. Okay, that's what it means. So some people who produce too much thyroxine, they have like what we call hyper. Hyper means you produce too much thyroidism. And this hyperthyroidism makes them like lots of energy. And the reverse, some people produce too little thyroxine, and that's called hypothyroidism. And so they gain weight easy, and they're like tired all the time. And that's basically what you need to know for TSH, RH, and thyroxine and cell metabolism. And so they're all kind of related here. And just to recap, this RH is released by the hypothalamus. The TSH is released by the anterior pituitary. The thyroxine is released by the thyroid gland, which is located in your neck. And its function is to travel by the blood and go to your cell and increase the cell metabolism to break down sugar more. And so that's thyroxine, okay? So I'm just gonna end this lesson here, and then I'm gonna talk about other hormones in my next lesson. Okay, bye.